1 minute. Can you start my phone?
Oh my God.
Good morning, one and all present here. Welcome back to the session 1 of day 2 of AICTE sponsored STTP. We have with us Dr. N.K. Krishna Kumar, former DDG Horticulture Science ICAR New Delhi. Dr. N.K. Krishna Kumar, former Deputy Director General ICAR, was born on 5th September 1955 at Mysore, Karnataka State. He was awarded the PhD from USA in 1993 as an East-West scholar and PDF from UC Davis, California in 2002 to 2003. In 38 years of his illustrious career, he served as Deputy Director General Horticulture and Director NBAIA Bangalore from June to August 2012 and head entomology and nematology for 8 years. He has made valuable contributions in the field of agriculture, horticulture, research management, biodiversity to India and the region. Dr. Kumar contributed significantly to IPM of vegetables, location of source of resistance, management of sucking pests as vectors of plant pathogens, etc. As a part of PhD under the guidance of Dr. Deanne Woolman at Hawaii under the East-West Fellowship, Dr. Kumar contributed to better understanding and management of vector thrips of tomato spotted wilt virus TSWV. He continued this work for his postdoctoral studies, focusing on the role of TSWV glycoprotein in vector acquisition, pattern of transmission in vector population, and relationship between virus application and transmission efficiency. Dr. Kumar is recognized advisor for postgraduate research work at UAS Bengaluru and Kuvempu University Shimoga. Similarly, his students have made valuable contributions on molecular systematics of aphids, whitefly thrips, role of aphid honeydew, resistance to pesticides in relation to virus transmission, etc. Dr. Kumar organized several scientific meetings such as national meetings on entomology and IPM, sap-sucking insects, focused meetings on leaf hoppers, whiteflies, mealybugs, insecticides, and resistance management, bioinformatics, etc. The ORP sucking pest was an outcome of one such meeting, a project which contributed invaluable HRD into the national systems, besides more than 60 international publications. Under his leadership, the team developed DNA barcode for 50 different species of insect pests of horticulture crops. Dr. Kumar worked at Biodiversity International with a responsibility to lead research in South and Central Asia and played a key role in organizing the first international meeting on agrobiodiversity in 2016 and 2 international meetings on management of tropical race for banana in China and India. Very recently, as Vice President of the Entomological Society of India, he organized 2 meetings on biopesticides, registration and quality assurance, and onion crop and seed production in relation to onion yellow spot virus. At Biodiversity International, he initiated research on development of an ABD index and valuation of ecosystem services in collaboration with ICAR. As a recognition of his scientific and managerial abilities, Dr. Kumar, an entomologist, was selected as DDG for Horticultural Science for ICAR in 2012. The PG School for Horticulture at IIHR Bengaluru, Directorate of Floriculture at Pune, besides innumerable scientific meetings, etc., speak for themselves. Under his tenure, horticulture surpassed grain production as an understatement. He is associated with many national and international professional societies in various capacities. He is the Vice President of Entomological Society of India. He is a recipient of several awards and honors. Dr. Kumar has several national and international research publications to his credit. Besides, he has written 5 books chapters. Dr. Kumar has edited a book on advances in IPM for horticultural crops and ICAR publication, The Onion. Sir, on behalf of the principal, HOD, staff and students and the participants, we extend you a warm welcome to the session, sir. Sir, it's over to you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. I'm very happy that the person at the top is also a person from Mysore and also was very closely associated with Kuvempu University. Everybody speaks Kannada or everybody, or is it like
many participants are from other states.
Okay, then we will only restrict to English. So it's a thank you for the good words, and I would not like to take too much time. So if you permit me, I'll go ahead and just let's have it. I'll mostly for an hour or 15 minutes, I'll just be talking. Uh, Last 15-20 minutes, it's basically I would like you to interact because this is a subject which is it's not that complex, but it will be interesting as I can certainly promise to you. And let us see how things go, and then we will share. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you very much with regard to this. Basically, this particular topic is on technology commercialization and then establishing the incubation facility from a perspective of Indian Council of Agricultural Research. Of course, I am very extremely thankful to Dr. Sudha Mysore, who worked under me, because initially I was the first chairman of the technology commercialization at Indian Institute of Horticulture Research, and Sudha Mysore, she worked under me, and now she is the CEO of Agro Innovate India Limited, which commercializes almost all the technologies of Indian Council of Agriculture Research and also the state agriculture universities, as you will come to know. So I sincerely thank her for the sharing the information and some of the valuable slides. Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the question is, we are all talking about science. We are all we are talking about science. We are talking about biotechnology. We are talking about so many other things. But when we do a lot of science, sometimes we have to think, why are we doing this science for? What is the purpose of doing our science? Like someone said, whatever I do in the long run or in the short run, if it is not useful to the society in any way, then why do such a kind of science? The purpose of doing science, basic or applied research or strategic research, should be useful to the society, should take our understanding a little forward. Sometimes it may not have immediate repercussions. Sometimes the science will immediately find an application in forms of technology. One such example immediately from science to technology is the Covaxin. There was a problem of COVID-19, and Bharat Biotech and many others came out with, in a matter of 2 years or 1 year or even lesser, they came out with regard to a vaccine where the science had an immediately, see, one of the greatest advantages of Dr. Manjunath and many of the students I would like to share is the COVID taught us a number of things, and very specifically for biotechnology. Because this is a biotechnology, I would like to emphasize. One of the lessons learned is about 3 years back, people were talking biotechnology. Oh, this is theoretical science. What is the use of it? What they are telling, I don't even understand. But today, every minister is talking about RT-PCR. Every minister is talking about vaccines. Every ordinary person is talking about this vaccine is better or that vaccine is better. Everybody now knows what is glycoprotein. Everybody knows what is the mutation. So in a matter of time, thanks to COVID, people have an very, very favorable opinion about biotechnology, which is extremely good for science, extremely good for investment. And if there is one thing that made our country very proud and saved millions of lives, it is biotechnology through Covaxin and many other vaccines that this country produced. But science to technology is one thing. Application of science is technology. I have a great technology, but I should also know how to make profit out of it, money out of it. That means if you develop a beautiful vaccine or a beautiful biotechnological tools, and if you go on giving it free, people will take, and somebody will put our knowledge and take it as they will commercialize and sell the same thing for us. The question of it is, in today's world, knowledge is money. In Sanskrit, there is a very great saying, Swadeshe Pujyate Raja, Vidwan Sarvatra Pujyate. That means a person who is a king is only respected in his own kingdom. But a person with knowledge is respected all over the world. Now, such a person, if the knowledge has to transform into the benefit of his society, then there is a need to use the technology so that you share it with others, but in return, you should also make it a business whereby your people get benefited. And the commercialization takes place. The commercialization is one step between technology and business. And once you get into the business, it is basically purely a business. And whereas the quality assurance and many other things are part of the scientific aspect of technology, ultimately it is commerce. So we need to commercialize. If you don't commercialize, you can talk about great science, but you will always remain poor. So that's one of the reasons. Just go back to about 400, 500 years back. One of the greatest civilizations in India, people came to do trade with us, right from Vasco da Gama to Dutch, the French and the British. They were extremely savvy with the business. Many of the Indian technologies, whether it is the discovery of the radio waves or the discovery of so many other things, it was also learned from India and the East, but commercialization took place in the West and they became the greatest, wealthiest countries. Today, when we are talking about the rich countries, they were the ones who knew how to commercialize the technology and do very effectively business. And we are on that pathway. So technology, anything that is, there is no value for free lunch. There is no value for free advice. So the question is, when you have knowledge, when you have technology, it has to translate into business for the welfare of the good. I would like to again go with most of the Nobel Prize that you can go through, or either from last couple of years back and other earlier in the last 40, 50 years, 170 years. Most of the Nobel inventions were actually from Germany, France, England, Belgium, Switzerland, America, and many other countries. Most of the great discoveries, whether it is Ford, whether it is aircrafts, whether it is radio, whether it is everything, you name it, telephones, how many electricity, everything was an innovation, and most of them got wonderful recognition as a basic and a fundamental discovery, including the discovery of the DNA alpha helical structure by Watson and Crick. But who made the money out of it? Today, when we are talking about cameras or cars or any of the appliances, you can always say made in China. Couple of years back, all best cars were made in Japan. Now Korea has also come into picture. China has come into picture. Taiwan is a powerhouse which the level is now far superior their living standards even as compared to the United States. And slowly India is moving in that. It is said, I would like to draw your attention. There was a very beautiful sentence which was caught my eye very recently. Why terrorists prefer Toyota cars? Why terrorists prefer Toyota? Terrorists prefer Toyota because it never fails. And when he wants to escape, he doesn't want to go into an old Fiat or an Ambassador car, but he wants to use a Toyota car so that he can escape. That means the power of innovation, the power of quality is the one which drives the market. Today, Toyota are the world players. What happened to our Fiat and Ambassadors and Javas and Rajdoot? They all disappeared. So there is a need for innovation and there is a need to convert those innovations into trade. Today, if you are taking, just look at the number of CEOs who are there in the world today. Recently, Parag Agarwal, Twitter, Microsoft, Satya Nadella, Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, Adobe, Shantanu Narayan, IBM, Arvind Krishna, Micron Technology, Sanjay Mehrotra, Palo Alto, Nikesh Arora, Artista, Jayashree Ullal, Indira Nooyi, and the list is slowly the number of Indians occupying the very high positions of the internationally most reputed. Why? Kiran Mazumdar of the Biocon, who is right in Bangalore and one of the greatest persons that the state has produced, and as a very great entrepreneur, a woman for that matter. We are very proud of all these persons. But what is happening is this country, which nurtured them through a wonderful education, hard work, thinking brains, we were not able to use them in a way that we should use, so that all the money that they contribute to Microsoft, Alphabet, Adobe, IBM, etc., is not really coming to our country. The products are ours, the knowledge is ours, the science is ours. But at this point of time, we don't know how to make use the best of them to translate their knowledge into money. So in some ways, we can be proud of it, but also you should think about it, that if I had an environment where I could have made use of these people, how much we would have been the global leaders for all the companies that we are talking about. 30% of the Fortune 500, Fortune 500 means the most wealthiest companies of the world. 30% of the Fortune 500 have Indian CEOs. That means nearly 150 out of 500 companies, top companies, have Indian CEOs. 1/3 of the all Silicon Valley, and when I mean Silicon Valley, I actually mean the Silicon Valley in California, San Francisco Bay Area. 1/3 of all the engineers are of Indian origin. And if you really go a little more critically, in that 1/3, nearly 60% or 70% will be only South Indians. Why am I telling this is, we have intellect, we have knowledge, we don't know how to convert that. We have the technology, we have the science. We do not know how to translate the technology into business. And if India has to progress, slowly we should really give a serious thought about converting this technology into money. Money is not evil. I would like to tell, for a very long time, this country said that, oh, whatever we do, we should donate to others. Only philosophy. We are the most corrupt people, but we talk great philosophies. The thing is, it was always said that no, you should not earn beyond what you need. Just look into some of the persons whom I am mentioning here. Sudha Narayan Murthy. I don't know how proud we are of her. She is one of the greatest persons generally one see. Bill Gates, we know Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation. Aziz Premji, another gem of a person who nearly is donating 27 crore Indian rupees per day donation. Bharat Biotech. Bharat Biotech, I am very proud to say, he was a plant pathologist, 2 years senior to me in University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore, also studied partly in Hawaii, and later on went to United States, but came back. And if he had not come back like many others, forget about Covax. Tata's, Shiva Nadar of HCL Computers, who donates approximately 1,263 crores per annum as a donation. Nandan Nilekani, A.M. Nayak. A.M. Nayak of LMT said that 75% of my earning is only for charity. What is to be done is, if you don't earn money, you cannot do charity. Beggars are the greatest philosophers because they have nothing. But if you want to serve the society, whether it is financially or establish a cancer institute, for example, Indian Institute of Science, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. If Jamsetji Tata had not, I don't know how many of you are aware, once Jamsetji Tata was going in a ship, carrying lots of soil in a ship to England. Swami Vivekananda also was traveling. He asked Dr. Tata, Jamsetji Tata, why are you carrying all this to UK? He said that I have to get this analyzed. I want to know how much of iron ore is there in this because I want to establish a steel company. Then Vivekananda, the great philosopher, said, why don't you start, instead of taking all these things to Britain, why don't you start whereby we build our own knowledge, our own intellect? Tata said, I can do it, but who will give money? Who will give land? I don't know anybody. Swami Vivekananda spoke to Jaichamarajendra Wadayar He gave the land and benefits and also the corpus money to start. And today, Indian Institute of Science is also called as Tata Institute because that was one of the institutes established by James Tata. Today, whether we are talking about atomic energy, whether we are talking about space, the contribution of Indian Institute of Science or earlier the seeds sown by Tata Institute is of immense benefit. And money, whatever you earn, there are many others who earn money and face the music in front of the enforcement directorate. All of you were witness to some persons stuffing their money in the toilets and the pipes and many other things. So there are also many others who donate a lot of money. Money is it should be a good servant. That means whatever you earn should be for a good cause. But if money begins to control you, it's a very bad master. So with this, you should again understand money is not evil, but use it as a good servant and not let it not become your master. There is a joke about somebody asked a Tamilian, a Sardar and a Gujarati, if I give you 10 crores, what will you do? The Tamilian typically is a very conservative man, and Kannadigas are for that matter are no different. They said that I will put this much of money in LIC, this much of money in State Bank of India, earn the interest, and I'll lead a comfortable life. When the same thing was asked to a Sardar, he said that I will start a truck business, run from one end of the country to another, and I will establish. A Gujarati, when he was asked, he said that I'll put 5 crores into business, 4 crores I will keep it as a corpus fund, and for 20,000 I will hire a Tamilian. And the Gujarati was only SSLC. A Sardar was also a diploma, and a Tamilian was a PhD or an engineer. It means the doing business is about intellect, about shrewdness. It's not about exactly how much science you know, but doing business is how best you can do a business. Similarly, a shoe salesman in Africa was asked to sell shoes. And then he said that, sir, in this country, nobody wears shoes or slippers. What is the fun in wearing? What is the fun? Why are you asking me to sell shoe in a country where nobody even wears slippers? He was removed and somebody else was brought in. And he said that, sir, it's an excellent opportunity because whatever I sell is a record. The same thing applies to Jews. The greatest businessmen in the world are Jews. All the venture capitals, all the top industries in the US are all controlled by Jews because they are extremely shrewd businessmen. They have a wonderful network like the Gujarati network, and the network, their forethought, their ability to take risk is something which makes them excellent businessmen. So there are certain traits where technology is separate and business is separate. The genesis of IPR technology, intellectual property rights, and technology management policies. Basically, there was an international meeting in Uruguay. It is called Uruguay Round of General Agreements on Trade and Tariffs. The world said that we have to have certain kind of common platforms, common understandings, countries doing business across. We should have general agreement with regard to the trade and tariffs. That means the Western countries are very clear. They were looking into how best to streamline the entire global trade so that the West becomes very safe. Today, if you can even see today, there are billboards in Delhi advertising olive oil. Why olive oil? If India begins, even 10% of Indians start consuming olive oil, Spain and Italy are safe for next 100 years. This agreement on GATT was followed in 1992 by Global Earth Summit, where they also talked about biological diversity. Why biological diversity? Biological diversity or anything that is available from the nature is actually the wealth with which the business originates. So they also wanted to see how best to bring this convention on biological diversity. And one aspect is the trade, another aspect is the conservation of biological diversity. And again, this was followed by another agreement on World Trade Organization in 1994, which set the rules with regard to the intellectual property, commercialization, who gets what, how best we can streamline, how much protectionism is possible for the developing countries. After that, we should pay level. You see, many a times, United States and many others, how they do the trick. If you buy the weapon system from Russia, we are going to put an embargo on you. We will have the atomic energy, but if you develop an atomic energy, you are going to be, become a pariah of the international world. We can do it, but you should not do it. Why? Because they have the money. But for all that to overcome, when India itself was exploded the first atomic bomb, or for that matter, we sent the satellite, there was a sarcastic comment. A country which does not have the toilets, does it need satellites in space? Today, ISRO, Antariksh, the arm of Antariksh, makes billions of dollars by launching, and we are one of the countries which launched in one go 100 satellites of different countries of the world. That means these things will be there, but we have to go further with regard to this. Coming specifically to India, we were an extremely country of what I call it as a red tapeism and bureaucracy. In 1991-89, I went as a student to United States to study. And those days, a student can maximum get from the Reserve Bank of India $20 for making, maximum. You can get only $20 you can carry with you if you are ready to go to other country. And to get the $20, I had to make 10 rounds to the Reserve Bank of India, and they asked me my SSLC certificate to give $20. Finally, I went to United States with $60 because our foreign exchange reserves were just sufficient in 1991. Only for about 15 days we were able to administer our country. We shipped tons and tons of gold to United Kingdom and brought pounds and dollars to keep our country floating. This was our situation in 1991 when Chaudhry Charan Singh was the Prime Minister, followed by Chandrasekhar. Thanks to Narasimha Rao, probably the greatest Prime Minister that we have seen, along with Dr. Manmohan Singh, they completely reversed the pattern of state control subject and 1991 the budget of 1991, where we took the first step of liberalization, actually completely opened the markets of our country. All of a sudden, there was no queue for the telephone. Many of you may not even understand. To get a telephone connection, we used to wait for 5 to 8 years. To get a Vespa scooter took 4 years. Gas connection took another few years. This is the kind. And today, if you want, you can get a telephone by across. You can buy any type of scooter or a car, any type of gas connection, anything. You don't have, because that is what the opening of the markets has made everything available to the consumer. Now, whether everything is good in opening the market, there are two schools of thought, but you have to see that the common man does not suffer. When I mean opening the market, it does not mean that mushrooming of hospitals and schools, which are only interested in making money and not really in the service. Slowly, they will also be eliminated, and slowly you will see the quality. From 1991 till today, Indian economy has been on the upswing. If today we had not taken those decisions, you would have been another country like Nigeria and Uganda or some other country, and people would have written you off from the map of the globe. You could not have protected your borders. You could not have given free meals during COVID. You could not have had the strength to prepare your own vaccine. And the list is endless. You would not have 15 to 20 CEOs who are leading the world with regard to that. So privatization made a entry. Efficiency in production, marketing, quality assurance became the mantra. And slowly now we thought, if a communist country can bring trade and commerce into their main aspects, China is a communist country. But when it does trade with other countries, it is purely a kind of there is no more socialism. It is purely commerce. And If China can do it, why not we? And you are seeing, just a second, imagine what we would have been without this kind of a liberalization. It is very even scary to imagine, because I see, you compare yourself with Afghanistan and Pakistan, we were no different in 1991. In fact, they were probably better than us, and we would have been worse than probably some of these countries. And when your economy is not strong, that is the first step towards chaos and disintegration of the society. Let me come back to agriculture. Is everything so rosy? Look at this. We are 1/5 of the world's population. We are about 140 billion people approximately, extremely densely populated. We only have the world's 3.4% of the land surface of the world. But 20% of the world's population depends on this 3%, 3.4% of the land surface. 25% of the world's population below poverty line live in India. And what is very, very touching to the heart and sad is 75% of the people below poverty line actually lie in our villages. We are one of the highest malnourished people. We are the diabetic capital of the world. Now somebody said that there are two Indias. An India which does not understand the problems of the rural farmers, and an India which only thinks that, the whatever is shown in our TV channels, where the problems of the common man is never discussed, but something irrelevant. Aishwarya Rai had an enforcement directorate, so that becomes a big news. Sachin Tendulkar's getting out for 10 runs becomes a big news. But the potholes of Bangalore, problems of disease, problems of poverty never get. Even today, when we are talking food and nutritional security, there is only cereals. We can give rice and wheat. Our nutritional security is very bad. Our land is getting degraded. And we had green revolution. We had through hybrids, water, etc. We grew more food. But let me tell you, our per capita consumption of protein today has come down since independence. We were consuming 60 grams of protein. Today it is around 40 grams. Water table, what was available? You used to dig a well and you used to get water. Today you have to go to 1,000 feet. Environmental disease, pest and diseases. There are many problems, and we are really thinking that while one side of the India is launching space, another side of it is millions of mouths are going hungry. Millions of them don't have roof above their head. They don't have access to primary solution. They don't have access to clean toilets. They don't have access to clean drinking water. So we have to think both these terms, and the problems of many of this is only possible when you have enough money to put into these cases. So with all this, when these things were parallelly happening, the Indian Council of Agriculture, as per the instruction of the Government of India, somewhere in October 2006 said that enough of whatever you do in terms of agriculture technology, whether it is CSIR, ICMR, the government cannot give everything free to everybody. Wherever possible, we should also have that where we can commercialize the technology, we should take the first step. Satellite is only for the first step it was launched as a communication tool to map the waters, to map the reserves of the country. But the next step was we began to commercialize the space technology, and then there was a real growth in the ISRO. Similarly, the thing that is, why did the British, the French, everybody come to India? They came to India for the spices trade. There are two things are important. One is spices, which is an agricultural commodity, and another one is the trade. Persons who came to do business on spices became world leaders. So if that much of wealth is there, why not have a guideline and a policy document? With this, we created in 2006, necessary structures and bodies were created, budget was allocated, and initially when 2006, my director at Indian Institute of Horticulture has told me, Dr. Kumar, you are going to head the, we call it as ITMU, Technology Management Unit. And I was suddenly taken aback because I did not even know what we are talking about. It was like a person with an elbow driving in busy commercial street or an MG road or a Majestic. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm not a businessman. I was afraid. I was unable to take risk. And there was also a fear. What if I fail? Everybody is going to point out. When I first said and began to commercialize, a number of scientists said that these people are going to auction IIHR to the private companies and the poor farmers will be suffering. It was very, very difficult to even convince people because public sector organization, government organization, whatever we do should be given free of cost. I read when I went to Union Bank of India once to meet a colleague of mine, there was a very beautiful statement. A ship is very safe in the harbor. Ships are very safe in the harbor, but it is not the place where it should be. If a ship is always parked in the harbor, it is safe, but is it the purpose of the ship? Similarly, banking or commerce is not without risk. It is a question of taking calculated risk. We put some money in FD, we put some money in chit funds, we put some money in venture capitals, we put some money in stock and shares. The money that is very safe, FD gives about 6.5% interest. But venture capitals or stock market may give about 11 to 12%. The step FD is without risk, whereas stock market is with risk. You have to take that calculated risk depending on how much you are taking the risk, accordingly it is. Now I'm coming to the nitty gritty of with regard to the trade, with regard to the how do structure, for example, an organization like yours slowly should now think about commercialization. And how do you think about commercialization is something which I'm going to tell you. Now there has to be, when we thought about it, commercialization can take place at the national level. That means all the institutes are coming under one zonal level, south zone, and at the institute level. So intellectual property and technology management unit at the center, that is Indian Council of Agriculture, New Delhi, Krishi Bhavan, started. And then they had a zonal management unit. And then there was an institute, each institute, IIHR, Central Silk Board, let us say for that matter, or many other institutes started having their own institute technology management. And second ICR, we also adopted a book on intellectual property and technology management policy, was a guidebook. See, for example, like how our constitution says that what to do and what not to do, you should know do's and don'ts very clearly right in the beginning if you want to do. For example, your organization wants to start up a technology management unit within the parameters of your operation. You should know some of the most selected persons, a core committee should decide what we should do, how we should do, how we should go the progress, who are the persons who will be doing what. And these kinds of management issues are very, very critical. This is, I will not say about this thing. This is same thing. After looking into the agriculture, farmers should also get the benefit of this thing. We started 1991. The success of 1991 should touch the base of the farmers. The benefits of information technology, biotechnology, and benefits of productivity should reach the Aam Aadmi or the common man. The purpose of doing all this business is earn money so that the common man gets the benefit. So we prepared a document. I'll go through how we went through. It was very difficult to make our own people understand what we are doing. Today everybody understands. But it was initially very difficult even to make our scientists, because we used to develop technologies and give it to the farmers. We used to develop, every technology was given free of cost. But post Uruguay round and WTO conference, it became very difficult because, let me tell you, the Namdaris which we are all heard, they took some of the best material also from IIHR, commercialized it, made a lot of money. But what did the institute get the benefit? Nothing. So we were not used to that kind of a mindset. First, your own staff, your own students, your own postgraduate research, they are all actually your intellectual wealth. The slide that I am presenting is my intellectual wealth. I mean, I can share with you, you can copy it because it is for the public good. But whatever you do, the first thing that you should do is your logo. Anything that you don't want others to copy should be very carefully protected. There is a plant varieties and farmers protection rights. There is another thing. What they do is, if there is a beautiful, let us say that one wonderful bull is there, which is everybody wants to see. If you can take a photograph it and for your own pleasure, no problem with it. But if you are using that bull for advertisement, you have to pay royalty to that owner of that bull. That means there is money in everything if you know how to use it. We started initially with group discussions and guest lecture to understand what it is. We wanted to first identify what are the technologies that we should give to farmers and what we should not give it to farmers. What is the meaning of patents? How do we go ahead with licensing the technology? Now, there are many aspects of commercialization. Technology commercialization is one, patent filing is one, licensing the technology is one, and I'll go through different steps as to what you want to do further. And you should also know there is a chairman of your institute, let us say. Chairman will not be involved in the day-to-day affairs of the organizational structure. There should be a separate core committee. So the policy levels can be at the top, but there is a small core committee which works at the grassroots level, mostly comprising of youngsters who really do the nitty-gritty of things. It is like there is a Ranji Trophy, there is a Test match cricket, and there is a World Cup. Each one has got its own set of rules, who plays what and who does it. Similarly, if there is a hotel, a manager will be sitting at the cash desk, but there are other persons, there is a server, there is a cook, each one they are running the show. But who is holding the entire thing? He is not actually washing the vessels, but the manager is supervising the entire thing. So those kind of a structured things are very essential. And most importantly, for doing anything, the thing that separates a successful business with a business that is a failure is how best you keep a track record of all the accounting process. Documents, files, receipts. I see many a times Indians coming for the meeting with a scribbling pad. And when I worked abroad, there is no scribbling pad, everybody comes with a laptop. Whatever you say gets recorded. And that record, believe me, saves business. So it is very important to maintain those records. The other one is business and law are very, very close friends. If you earn money, if you are successful, then believe me, you are going to get into legal problems. So before doing the business, it is like how we enter into a rental agreement. These kinds of things have to be very, very nicely scrutinized by the legal expert. If I can only say the most important thing before even doing business or entering into any kind of a commercial venture is empaneling a legal expert. When I first took over as the technology management unit head, we paid 15,000 rupees. I'm talking of 2007 or 8. I paid 15,000 rupees per hour to one of the wonderful attorneys who drafted the legal agreement for us. There was a lot of criticism. Today, that is the backbone of most of the memorandum of understanding. And don't have an account that is totally associated with the organization. Technology management unit should have a separate account. Lastly, business and bureaucracy don't go together. If I want to do business, I should have the freedom to do business. The accounts officer should not be raising objection as to why do you buy a pencil. He should not be telling why don't you have 3 quotations. Then he will say file approval is required on record. Chairman has to approve. That means operation success, patient collapsed. If a lady is in delivery, the labor pain, you cannot ask her to go through the OPD. There are certain things where quick decisions have to be taken. In business, if you lose time, you lose the business. Less file work, more business, more success. Now, what are the different types of services that the commercialization can provide? You can provide your service. What is the kind of service that you provide? For example, somebody comes with a food safety. Somebody comes with a pesticide residue. Somebody would like to is applying for a loan and they would like to prepare a draft for them. Somebody is actually wanting you to develop a document that they would like to present it to the World Bank to get money. You can provide different kinds of services. Somebody wants you to provide an identification service. In your organization, somebody wants to say, I have this new pathogen that is coming. Can you do DNA sequencing? Or somebody can say, I would like to use your bench space. When your students are done with their work, I will use it from 8 to 9. And for that services you provide in terms of tables and lights and equipments, you can charge very effectively. In fact, a good biotechnology lab is which works 24 hours around the corner and where bench space is marketed. That is how you make money. R&D technology, that is services. Research and development is, for example, somebody comes with a foreign organization comes, let us say that ICRISAT or let us say some organization comes and says, we will work together and when we develop this, we will equally share our royalties and whatever the benefits. Or a pesticide company or a fungicide company or a biotechnology company says, I have developed this particular thing. Can you validate it for me and give it to me? You can do that R&D technology. Or he will say, I am having difficulty in this diagnosis. We both will put our minds together and come out with a product so that we can share. So similarly is the postgraduate program. Some organization comes to you and says that, can you collaborate with us for the R&D technology? So this is another method. One of the most popular one is technology commercialization. Here I would like to tell Manjunath, the technology is not essentially what the staff do. Technology can be very effectively even through student research. So I would say that whenever your students pass through this thing, it is prudent on your part to take a small saying that the material that they have generated is the property of your organization and anything that commercially comes out of it rests with the institute with the due acknowledgement and whatever the appreciation that has to be given to the student. That means you are now owning the technology. You are streamlining, you are mainstreaming the technology that comes with it. It could be in any branch because today you have 60 students. Let us say somebody comes with a wonderful discovery. And what are you going to do with it? How are you going to commercialize with it? Tomorrow, what if the student says it is my work? University should not claim the credit, though your own teach. So there are many things where in the technology commercialization and how to commercialize the technology, I'll be telling. Consultancy services is another one of the most valuable things. Consultancy is, let us say that one of your professors, one of your staff has 15 years of research on a particular field. For example, somebody is working on aflatoxins and you are one of the experts in that. Now, if he goes and he cannot do it individually. And if he does it through your organization says, look, I am ready to spare him for 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, but we are going to charge this much for the services that we are giving it to him. Or we will organize a training program on the topic that you want, but we are going to charge this much of consultants. And the other aspect is incubation. Incubation means an entrepreneur comes and says that I want to buy your technology, but the technology immediately I cannot market it because I don't have the technical knowledge. Then your scientist will work with him and that person will come to his laboratory and he will develop the tricks of the trade, how to ferment, how to remove the impurities, how to enhance the quality of the product. So such things he will work, and that is called as incubation training. How an egg which is incubated till the chick develops and becomes a hen. Likewise, a person who comes to you raw, you nurture him like an egg is nurtured, and that finally so that he can go into the outside world to do business is the incubation. So these are all the different kinds on which you can really look into this. So this is in a very beautifully, I have just said that Institute Technology Management, there is unit should be separate. Intellectual property management should be separate. Consultancy and processing cell is separate. And normally testings and other things that come into this your center is separate. Now, these are all comes under one unit. And each unit should have one specialized person doing this kind of a business for all of you to understand. Now, most importantly, I would like to draw one more attention is called as the trademark. Now, tomorrow you have your Oxford, institution, but tomorrow you want to sell your custom. For you, we have seen Bose, we have seen TVS, we have seen Tatas, or you have seen Benz. What you see is that logo that actually represents the organization. Now, today, if I have an auto rickshaw, and can I put Benz logo on that? No, you cannot. You will be sued. So, similarly, if you want to commercialize anything, right now apply for a trademark. And for all of us in South India, in Chennai, very near Gindi, there is a place where they give the trademark for you. And you develop your unique trademark. When both speakers went to his mentors and said that I want to market both these speakers, what should I keep it as the trademark? The advice given to us, it should not be more than 4 letters so that, and it is very catchy and everybody is beginning to understand. See, look at the word Tata, it is only 4 letters. Bose, only 4 letters. TVS, 3 letters. You cannot have Sirigannadam, Gelge, and one big thing where nobody can even pronounce. Trademarks, once you use it, nobody can duplicate, and the logo represents the product and the commercial value of this. So if you have not done it, take the first step. Maybe we can facilitate, I can help you also with regard to the getting the trademark and many other things. The first step in commercialization is trademark will take time, because when you submit your application, they scrutinize. They will say whether any such logo has been asked by somebody else. How is it different from others? What happens if you expand your product? So for example, if I had said Arca seeds, I cannot market other technologies. So these are all very important. See, these things have to be, I still remember 10 to 12 years back when I went to Chennai to get this Arca trademark, and very happy to see that the commercialization has taken place. Now, how do you go ahead? What are the processes of commercialization and technology? The first step is any technology, let's say variety is also technology. What you should do is anybody in your organization who thinks it's a good technology, who thinks it is something different, who thinks that it has got a commercial value, who thinks that it can be marketed, he can come and approach the technology cell that you have within your institution or henceforth form within your organization. He will come and say, it can be even a student. Sir, my research work has said this. Supposing for a particular procedure, they are doing it is taking 8 hours. If my thing can do it in 1 hour, that's a technology. They have to come and tell you. Now, there are two aspects. There are some persons who think their technology is great, but the technology is not that great. There is another set of persons who think his technology is not at all great, but you know it is very great. You know it is very good. So in such a scenario, you organize also one person. Normally such person in every organization, there is a person who goes on chatting with everybody. Put him in charge of that. Scouting for the technology is very important. We sometimes thought the technology is great, but it never sold. We never thought the technology, for example, let me tell you, when I commercialized the pheromone technology for, the scientist himself said, Kumar, who is going to buy this technology? The entrepreneur who bought the technology, I told him, you take it, you will not regret. I gave him for 50,000 or 1 lakh. In 2 years, the royalty for the technology was 6 lakhs. Technology commercialized for 1 lakh, royalty of the technology was 6 lakhs. So many a times we ourselves don't know the value of a technology. Then when a person claims that the technology is there, a set of experts should inspect. When I mean set of experts, it is not necessarily persons of higher hierarchy. They all should consist of professors. They should consist of registrar. No, anybody who is knowledgeable enough, anybody who has got a business set of mind, anybody who has got an entrepreneur set of mind, they should become part of it and they should evaluate the technology. It is also very prudent to, if possible, with your own close circles. And it should be done very secretly. You cannot open it up and go on advertising we have this technology much before. So a close evaluation of the technology. And once the committee decides that the technology is worthwhile, then the innovator of the technology will make a presentation to the house, entire house. It may be students and everybody. He will make a presentation of the technology. But what is important in presentation of technology is there is a story about Panchatantra where there is a lion and a cat. The lion requests the cat, you are so wonderful in hunting, why don't you teach me also? The cat teaches the secrecy of hunting. And once the lion learns the tricks of the trade, it tells the cat, I am going to eat you because I am very hungry. The cat tells, try, and immediately it climbs to the tree. Whereas the lion is not able to climb up the tree. Then it says you are a cheat. The cat tells, no matter what you teach others, always keep one for your own safety. That means what I'm trying to tell is, you should not tell the entire technology, the secrecy of the technology, but only the value of the technology without telling the entire the process of the technology, so that every Tom, Dick and Harry who listens to your talk should not aspire to become the duplicate your technology and say I am the innovator. Once the house is convinced, house is convinced means it is not show of hands. Everybody will be given a set of scorecard which they will secretly tick based on 10 or 12 parameters, and if based on the overall score, the technology commercialization unit will approve that this technology is worth for commercialization. This the students also can form in their own postgraduate research how best the technology can be taken forward. Once the technology is approved by the technology variety or technology identification committee, you have to take two kinds of trends. To whom it is useful? Is it useful for the general public or is it worth commercializing? If there are certain technologies which are very useful for the commercial public, may not be in your particular case, but in organizations where you work. Let us say I develop a variety of ragi. I don't want to commercialize it because the farmers will easily stand to benefit. I develop a particular thing, another ornamental variety. I would definitely like to commercialize it because people who want to use it for Valentine's Day, let them pay the price for that variety, but not a farmer who is going the improved variety of ragi, which our farmers are going to grow. So there is you have to develop between what is to be given freely to the farmer and what is to be given to the trade or the business community. Now, when you want to give it free, the technology has to be popularized. For example, some teacher comes to you, a very excellent teacher. Another school requests, can he take a special class for us? It is for the benefit of all the students. There is nothing wrong if he can go and share his knowledge to another set of students. Or your class notes to be given to be distributed to some other school student. It is a service to the society. Those things should not be charged. But there are certain things which need to be charged. For example, vaccines, a different kind of a diet, a different pheromone technology, a biopesticide, a nutritional formulation, an improved hybrid variety. So many things that need to be commercially available can be taken to the path of privatization should be, but that technology disclosure should be done to the technology unit. You assess the potential and the value of the technology. Now, this is a very, very tricky issue. You saw in case of vaccines, how much it should be charged. Now, there are four different methodologies by which you assess the potential. I have a wonderful drug for curing, let us say COVID-19, and the cost of manufacturing of the drug is only 1 rupee. Am I going to market that drug at 1 rupee 50 paisa? I am going to market it at 100 rupees. But do I market the same thing at 100 rupees even within the country or outside the country? No, within the country you market for 10 rupees, outside the country you give it for 100 rupees. Now, supposing it is a very unique product, or let us say For example, people are dying by hundreds and thousands. Then the government can say this technology cannot be commercialized because it is badly needed by the public, so it should be given free of cost, like how many of the vaccines, freely vaccines were given. So you have to valuation of the product depends on different this ones, but certainly commercialization and determination of the value is not based on the cost of the product, development of the product, but it is based on the market demand for the product. But before you commercialize, it's absolutely important that you do it, whether to commercialize, whether to publish, or whether to take a patent. This will come very handy for you. Now, if you publish, you cannot get a patent because that is already in the public domain. But if you want to take patents, is it an Indian patent or a universal patent? And who will maintain? That means every year to maintain the patent, you have to give money for that. So what is to be patented? What is not to be patented? And if you have a patent, what is the advantage of it? Who is going to pay the money for the patents? All these things are issues that you have to deliberate, and that is a different, that takes almost another 1 hour with regard to patenting. Now I have a technology, I have a beautiful technology. Who are the commercial buyers? In most of India and in many of our scientists, what we are doing is the person who innovates fixes the price. He also searches the same persons who are going to buy the technology. But what I would advise is the person who discovers the technology, he should stop with it. There is a separate unit to identify the technology, and the ITMU will identify the potential buyers. Though you should do a lot of search with regard to who are the persons who are going to make use of it. And the innovator entrepreneur interaction negotiation. Negotiation is, as I said, you have a wonderful technology. So it's like renting a house. The owner will say, sir, the house will cost you about 25,000 rupees. I will tell impossible. I will not be able to give more than 15,000. Similarly, in business, the buyer wants everything cheap. The seller wants to get the maximum. It is called who blinks first. Who blinks first means both of us stare at each other. Who blinks the eyes first? So the negotiation is a skill. It's an art. Sometimes very valuable things are sold at a pittance. And sometimes if the buyer is generally not a foolish fellow, and usually he will get it at a down to earth price, but certain times the buyer may also end up paying very high. And for these things, once you decide on the rate and the negotiations are over, as I said, take the help of a legal expert. And if you want, I can also share the backbone or the skeleton of a memorandum of understanding that we developed. I can share with your organization. And based on that, you can prepare an MOA, that is memorandum of understanding, and you can license the technology. And the persons who buys the technology, if he further requires certain amount of training, you can also give the training for that. Now, when you do these kinds of things, you should also have with regard to what are the other technologies. A person, when he buys to the technology, you should give a simple overview of what other technologies, because a person comes all the way to you, he will also be interested to see if there is anything else he can buy. So always it is prudent to give a brochure of your technology, what are the other technologies, how much they are priced, and whether the person is willing to sign a memorandum of understanding for other these things or contract research. A person should actually see, when I go to a particular shop for an electronically buy, let us say that a computer, in his display he keeps all other items, their prices, and there is one person immediate. So likewise, you should know how to market your technologies. Structure and pattern of the license fee. Technology licensing. This is also one class. That is, there is a person who says, I want to buy the technology from you under one condition. For the first 5 years, you should give the technology only to me and not to others. In that case, I will buy the technology. But then you don't want to lose money. You say that, no, I cannot give it exclusively to you because I am losing my money. Now that fellow says, if you give it to all the others, I will give 1 lakh technology. But if you give me this technology for 5 years, I will give you 10 lakhs. In that 5 years, I will make the money. Now, this requires an understanding of the business. There is an exclusive clause, there is a non-exclusive clause. And this depends on the technology and how do you go. The third one is upfront payment of the license fee as one-time payment. That means when he buys a technology, he should give a corpus, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, 50,000, 10 lakhs, 50, 25 lakhs, whatever. That is the one-time payment. But the trick is this, watch very carefully, watch very, very carefully. Just don't stop your technology as one-time payment. You should insist that one-time payment is this, but after the payment is made, after when you begin to market this product, if you make 100 rupees, minimum 2 rupees should be given to me as a royalty. Because royalty is something which far exceeds the down payment, and no company wants to give royalty because of this. But if you are a smart negotiator, you should say that without royalty, we are not giving. Or if he is not giving the royalty, if it is 1 lakh, make it to 5 lakhs. But royalty, how to get it? These are all some things which has to be looked into the memorandum of understanding. But if you are careful, royalty is very, very valuable and fetches more money than the down payment itself. Never license a technology endlessly. You license the technology for a period of 5 years or 10 years. 5 years is optimum. And then you say, if you still wants to continue marketing that, after 5 years, he has to come to you for negotiation. This is again something. Royalty continue as long as he is producing from your technology. They are very clever. Sir, we have modified this. As long as he uses the basic framework of your technology, you have to insist on that. For example, in India, royalty is a trick. Basmati rice. We are exporting 80,000 crores worth of Basmati rice to different countries. Indian Council of Agricultural Research did not get 1 rupee as a royalty for any of this. Shows how poor a businessman we are. Now the technology costing and the pricing. How do you value your technology? Many persons will say, no, sir, for the development of technology, this is my pay, this is the cost of the chemical, this is the cost of my laboratory space, this is the cost of SRF. So if it is looking into all that, he will say that, okay, this technology I am charging you this much. That is the most stupid way of developing, costing a technology based on the expenses that has gone into it. The expenses will always be low, but when you are commercializing a technology, you should not look into the costing, but you should look into what is the market analysis for that, market demand for that product. Technology pricing versus valuation. Value of the technology is highly subjective. That means my child is, I consider him has to be always a king. You always think that your technology is the greatest, but markets are different. There are competitors, there are advantages, there are disadvantages. But an honest valuation of the technology is really required. That is where the business skills come into picture. It varies with situation. For example, what is in demand in, for example, let us say jasmine. Jasmine is extremely demand in south, whereas if you go to north, no women would like to keep it in the jasmine flowers. So there may not be so much of a demand. Whereas certain things are very much in demand in a particular place. They are, for example, a rose which cost in the February 15th on Valentine's Day may be exceptionally costly, but it may not be costing the same thing next week. So these are all things that are subjective. So technology can be based on cost that has incurred, based on the market analysis, based on the income approach. Supposing I give this technology at a cheaper rate, but I get a royalty and it spreads all over, what is the technology? In fact, let me happily share with you. After 15 years, we commercialized neem soap and Pangamia soap. Even last year, I got a royalty worth of some 40-50,000 for the commercialization that took place some 15 years back. You can have a hybrid or a combination approach. That means that, okay, I am ready to reduce the royalty, but you increase the down payment, or I will reduce the down payment, you increase the royalty. If you buy one technology, the second technology, I will give it at a better price. So you should know how to, do your market analysis. So it is the income method is commonly used for IP evaluation. It values the IP asset on the day of the economic income that is expected to generate. Of course, the present day, and to some degree it is reliable for future period, but market method is based on comparison with the actual price paid for the transfer of the similar. For example, your product like Toyota versus let us say that Honda or Hyundai. So it is market is based on these kinds of things. How does a parallel thing actually cost in the market? If yours is a few notches higher, what is it that you are going to, or here it becomes a comparative trend. These will appear with regard to biopesticides or a different methods of diagnosis. The cost method established calculating the cost, which I said is not the most ideal thing. The thing that I would like to tell you is one person should not do. In all the universities that I studied abroad, you are a scientist, you do your work, but there is a separate committee which goes to different divisions, talks to people and identifies the technology. The technology identification, technology generations are two different things. Technology identification and technology protection is a legal component. Pricing is a business component. Method of commercialization is a business come art. So these things have to be very clearly demarcated. There is an accountability in the whole process. Accountability is I don't listen everything and then go on giving it to others. Maintenance of account. The last one is how the money is distributed from how much the innovator gets, how much the person who identifies gets it. Technology, how much the person, the supporting staff, SRF, administrators, who all play a role, who takes how much. And believe me, if money is evil, this is what I found. The day the technology began to commercialize, I saw suddenly all the retired people said, I have also contributed. The administration said some share should be given to us. It became literally a fight when I had to tell my director, sir, I don't want to be associated with technology commercialization because I see the bad side of the evil. So like what I would like to say is the commercialization pathway is you do your research. There is an invention through research. And once it is very, very good, you have to technology management committee, you take their approval, protect the IP, disclose your technology to buyers, technology, let him evaluate. Then you start the process and further after licensing, if you want some training, you have also to go through the incubation process. So this is just to show how our income. When I took over, IAHR income was 2 lakhs. In a matter of 2 years, the income was 1.5 crores. It goes to show the freedom, the pathways, the way you take it forward. This is called as Agro-Innovate, which I'll just briefly tell because Agro-Innovate is, now IAHR is one company, but there are 110 research institutes in ICR. We thought of bringing all the technologies under one head, and that became, we called it as Agro-Innovate, which is in Delhi and looks into the commercialization of technology across state agriculture universities and ICR institutes. So this is at the ICR level, institute level, and also manages the intellectual property of the Council of Agriculture Research. What is the advantage? Every institute need not put their money into all these things. They can just approach the Agro-Innovate at ICR and they help the commercialization of ready technologies. And they also are being in Delhi, they can talk to both the domestic and the foreign audience and they help in the capacity building and technology evaluation. They also take up one institute from another institute. There is a lot of cross learning in terms of capacity building, commercialization. What is the learning and unlearning that can be done from different stages. So these are some of the things. Seed and the planting material. We expected seed and the planting material to be one of the highest. No doubt they are good. But what we realized is Some of the best technologies are micronutrients associated with crops and biopesticides. In animal husbandry, vaccines have got a tremendous value and cannot be distributed freely. It has to only be commercialized. But at the same time, the need for small and marginal farmers, biotechnological we commercialized one tomato, which was difficult because it was a GMO. There is a flower called antirrhinum. We put the pigment of that antirrhinum into tomato to create high level of anthocyanin. The tomato looks blue in color, and we wanted to sell it to many Canadian technologies because they can extract anthocyanin from that for industrial application. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't have a policy of GMO. As a result, it could not be successfully commercialized. You can commercialize a marker, a species specific marker, a gene sequence, etc., etc. So these are some of our technologies, the web platforms. This is just to show that some of the varieties, how they can be of tremendous commercial value to all over the different parts of the world with regard to the durum wheat, because it is having a yellow pigment in addition to higher yield. This is, I don't want to go into this. So this is how we saying that how anybody can contact us with regard to expression of interest and technology. Same thing with regard to this. You can see how many technologies they agro innovate. From 2018, the gross revenue was only 30. What is that? It's approximately from number of technologies have gone from 15 to 460, and the gross realization in 2 years has gone from 36 lakhs to more than this 105 lakhs. Surprisingly, most of the commercialization takes place at the small end of 2 to 5 lakhs, and higher you go. That means we have not yet matured in marketing the true value of our technology. And this is the core team, and there are so many other institutional mechanisms to start promotion. But believe me, what I would, because I'm just rushing through some of these things because the time is a little bit short, but more of it I have said. A technology commercialization is a process of technology transfer from an innovator to the interested client, purely for commercial scale production under mutually agreed terms and conditions for a specified period in a given geographic territory, mostly on a non-exclusive guideline. This is our guideline. Whereas incubation is a process of extending technical or a business support based on appropriate charges for a specific period under mutually aid. It is technology based, it supports business, and it is specialized. But technology based incubation is also there. I don't want to go into details. And now lot of venture capitals and many others are also growing, and they are coming into the picture, and it has grown 8 times from 326 crores in 2014 to 2000 in the agricultural sector itself within the country. Shows that there is a tremendous scope for commercialization, and there are many others who like Atal Innovation, BIRAC. Some of our own scientists have got under BIRAC. For example, one of my scientists who discovered, this may be of interest to you, a tissue culture protocol for production of papaya, which was very, very difficult. I gave him 50 lakhs and said that I don't want you to do basic research. You should, the most popular variety of papaya, the red lady, you should multiply through tissue culture. He multiplied, left the institute, and started on his own. This and doing reasonably good business. Just goes to show that you have to take a certain amount. These are some of the investors that are coming. I'll not go into too many details, just to say that incubation centers, what all they do, and some of the persons who are associated with the initial stages of technology commercialization. And these are the persons with whom we worked. Dr. Sidhu, Director of IIHR, Post-Harvest Technology, Dr. Sudha Mysore, in IIHR, and many others who are there. And today, in Agro Innovate has branches all over the country, across the institute, including collaboration with so many people and taking very great steps with regard to the commercialization of technology. This is a building where this all started about 15 years back. And today IIHR is a role model even in the Indian Council of Agricultural Research with regard to commercialization of technology. When I took over NBAIR as the director in Hebal, They did not even know what commercialization is. Today, their technology commercialization runs into 70, 50 to 80 lakhs, a very small institute. So these are some of our products which we are commercializing. Uh, I'll not go into this. Is one product where fodder can be very easily cultivated at the local level and continuously can be fed to cattle. So I would only going to say that the technology commercialization has many shades. It's a very vast topic, and I just thought I will show some of the glimpse with regard to the commercialization process. Since time was short, I thought I will end it for a couple of minutes of discussion. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be very happy to take. ಸರ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Sir,
ಈಗ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
Thank you very much, sir, for your elaborative and highly informative, motivative talk. Now, participants, the session is open for the discussion. If you have any queries, you can unmute yourself or you can put the question in the chat box. So one question is, sir, how to avail technologies from ICAR?
See, ICR, if you want to avail any technology, you first of all you have to identify what technology is it. There are which technology you want to, and you can you identify the technology. Write to Dr. Sudha Mysore. I'll share the email with you, and then you just write. I will share the mail. This thing. Write to her. We are interested in this technology, and you also have to tell why are you requesting this technology. Now, do you want to commercialize that technology, or you want to share it for the benefit of students? You have to tell what is the technology and what is the purpose of you using that technology. And once that is there, she will get in touch with you, because we would like to know why you are using the technology. For example, if you can want to say something, you would like to market the technology, absolutely no fine for it. You can do it, and then you buy it and then enter into a kind of an agreement.
So where to look out for the technology list?
No, where to look out for the technology needs. See, there is a CSIR, there is ICMR, there is ICAR. You go to India, type the technology available, you will get 101 technologies that are available. My question, this thing would be, take from any public sector organization the technologies that are available, because they come to you very cheap. Second one is, in public sector, people are ready to talk to you, help you, handhold you, and the idea is not to cheat. So those things, I would say that try to I will share the details of AgroInnovate and Sudha Mysore. Or if you have any particular technology, you tell me what you want to buy. I will at least refer you to those kinds of persons with regard to. But some of the take-home message that I would like to give it to Dr. Manjunath is, first form a unit called technology, IP and technology, or ITMU, whatever you would like to call. And then what you consider as 4 or 5 intellectuals or somebody, let there be one person who has invested in shares and stocks, who is a good businessman. There is somebody who can identify, who has got a core research. So that 4 persons you involve, and also involve one member secretary as a student, because they also learn the process. You will learn gradually how effective it is. So I would, one of my first thing I would suggest is you do that. And second one is, be in touch with people. It's a slow process, but you will learn it. Better late than never. The second thing that I would like to tell you is, every student's thesis dissertation is an intellectual property of your institute. Now, anybody copying should not be allowed. Anybody you exploiting those kinds of these things should not be allowed. So those kinds of things, you see how best you guard your resources. When somebody visits your institute, all the laboratories and all these things need not be displayed. You have to be guarded where you are.
So can you highlight about the hydrogreen technology?
Hydrogreen technology, actually, it is something that has come from the veterinary sciences, which I am not. But if you really want to do that hydrogreen technology, it is mostly come through NIANP, National Institute of Animal Nutrition and Physiology. Whoever is interested, I can facilitate with Dr. Raghavendra Bhatta, the director of the institute, and they will be in a better position to exactly tell because technically I know it's a technology, but I'm not sure with regard to the nitty-gritty things, how much it has been sold, who is making use of it. I have to look into that particular technology, and then this is after I left ICR, this technology was commercialized. That particular slide was shared. If I understand, what happens is fodder becomes a limitation in certain dry months of the year. In fact, when there is a drought, the first thing we think is only about animal fodder. How to make animal fodder available. Nowadays, there is a technology coming as hydroponics and aeroponics. Can we develop that kind of a rapidly, highly nutritious this thing? You'll be surprised at the income. Second one is you can produce and then transplant it any time of the year. And those kinds of technologies are coming, but I'll exactly tell you what the technology is once I look into it and share with you.
Can you share the contact detail of Sudha?
I will share. I will give it. I will send it to Dr. Manjunath, and then I will send a mail to you, and then she will be able to tell most of it. You can say that Dr. Kumar gave a talk, and then you can talk to her. And she is from Bangalore, and she will be quite useful. But what are the technologies that you are interested in? What is it that you want to commercialize? Because we are an agriculturally based institutes and we are doing that. But the medical applications of biotechnology, industrial application of biotechnology, many things that are taking place. For example, one of the things that are going to be exponentially important is the microbial research and the biotechnology associated with the fermentation process. So there are many things that are to be done. So if each one is a ocean in itself. So look from that perspective. The second one is when you are giving the thesis topic to the students, it's nice to see which one of them have a commercial application and how we can build one step further in the process. Thereby, you are hitting two stones with the student also is doing cutting edge research and also first step in the commercialization process.
Max friends, any more questions? I think that's all about the participants' queries, sir. Now I request Dr. Valarmati to propose vote of thanks for Dr. Krishna Kumar.
Sir, on behalf of the principal, HOD, staff and students and the participants, we extend a heartfelt gratitude for this thought-provoking lecture, sir. Thank you, sir, on behalf of all of us. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time and giving us such a wonderful lecture.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Manjunath.
Thank you.